Good morning, Oracles. I want to start off by apologizing. Last night's video, I said that Tesla went green on the day. The chart that I had looked at had not updated to market close. Tesla did finish red 0.45%, so my apologies for that. Next is, I was wrong, and I did not think that Elon was going to be selling his shares of Tesla stock, but he did. And for those of you who said that, the trading patterns were reminiscent of what we saw back in December when Elon was selling, you guys were absolutely right. And when you brought it to my attention, I was like, that it did look similar. And we just got the latest updated Form 4 filings. So it looks like if Elon said he is done selling yesterday, he will have completed 9.5 million shares sold for about $8.5 billion based on rough calculations. Now, Elon did state in a tweet that there are no more planned sales after today. And that was yesterday, so chances are whatever he sold yesterday morning is going to be the final sales that he has planned. Now, Gary Black on Twitter had also mentioned that the word planned was most likely put in there by lawyers because Elon probably truly is not planning on selling anything more, but anything can happen, so they've got to put that caveat in there to protect him and the company. And so now let's talk about the sentiment around what happened this week with Elon selling. Now, many a time when there is insider trading of some sort, when you see maybe a CEO, a CFO, someone high up in the company selling shares of their stock, a lot of times that is a bearish signal because that means that they know something and it's usually negative towards the company. So many times you have to dive into the reasons behind why they sold it. A lot of times they have similar to what Elon had back in November and December, where they just had options that were expiring due to a compensation package, and so they had to do that in order to pay off taxes, or there's other reasons that maybe they had no choice as to do it. And in this case, Elon obviously sold for the purchase of Twitter, and whether you like that decision or not, that is the reason why he sold. So it's nothing negative against Tesla and the company itself. So fundamentally, this sale has nothing to do with Tesla whatsoever. So stepping back and taking a look at it from an outsider's perspective, this week actually presented us with a phenomenal buying opportunity. We are most likely going to be getting the proxy for split news either today or Monday. It is due by Monday, and as Gary Black had stated on Twitter, they have 120 days from the end of their fiscal year to release their proxy. They can get an extension on this, but Monday will know whether they extend it or not. And so we should have split information Monday or information as far as the extension goes. And so now all of us who had this opportunity to buy more Tesla stock this week, which I know I did, my IRA went from 2 shares to 5, and I am now up to just over 8 shares in my main portfolio. So overall, I went from just over 9 shares to 13 shares. That's a significant jump for me, but I saw this opportunity and I did not want to miss it. Can it come down further? Absolutely. We have talked about the gap down to 801 that we technically have. 9 out of 10 times, gaps do get filled. So can this get filled? Absolutely, but we'll see how that plays out. And if we do end up retracing back to that point, I personally am still ready to add even more because knowing the macro environment that we are in, and Tesla's stock price is clearly not following the fundamentals of the company, it's following the macro environment. So I will take any buying opportunities I have to take advantage of this. Now, we did talk about it last night that we did see the first quarter had negative GDP growth. So if we do get a second quarter of negative GDP growth, we are technically in a recession. So still some things to weigh there. Again, CPI data coming out on the 11th, FOMC on the 5th. So there's a bunch of different macro uncertainty questions that we have out there that could bring the stock down further. But knowing that Elon is done selling and knowing that the reason we saw the massive selling pressure this week was because of Elon tells me that fundamentally the company is still strong and we can rebound very quickly regardless of what is coming out of the macro environment as well. So if we do get suppressed stock prices because of macro, still a great time to buy. Now, this is not financial advice. This is just my plan as to what I am doing with the stock. I am still trying to get myself to 10 shares in my main portfolio. So I will be adding a little bit more today, knowing that Elon is done selling. And then we'll see where the stock price goes from here. Again, it's still the last day of the month. It's the last day of the week. Occasionally, usually we get a Friday fade. So we'll see if that transpires. The whole macro environment right now is in the red pre-market. So Tesla's in the green because of the news of Elon being done selling. We'll see how this weighs out. And now that Tesla is a significantly larger piece of my portfolio, if Tesla's green, but the macro is red, usually my portfolio is green. And I know many of you on there in the comments express your opinions about Elon tanking the stock intentionally. I don't know Elon, but I know that following him enough, that's not the kind of guy who he is. In hearing him in the interviews and everything he has said, he's not horribly concerned about the stock price. For him, it's more about keeping the stock price to a place where retail investors can invest more. And truly the decisions he makes are based upon his desire to help humanity in the future. And buying Twitter is his way of doing that to present free speech to more people on social media. And yes, in doing so, he had to bring the stock price down because he had to sell some shares in order to buy Twitter. So you can have your opinions either way on this. My opinion is I think he's doing the right thing, and I utilize this as a great buying opportunity because it doesn't really reflect Tesla itself as a company fundamentally. So I took advantage of this buying opportunity. And yeah, this is something that you have to, take into account when you're a shareholder of Tesla. Elon, the reason Tesla is so successful is because of who Elon is. The reason the stock is so volatile is because of who Elon is. So it's all about risk reward and just weathering this storm. And if you can weather this storm with Elon and his, who he is as a person and the antics that he has and his personality, if you can weather that, in my opinion, you will be extremely successful as a long-term investor in the company. So we all have our own opinions on Elon, whatever they are. Look at the company fundamentally. It's doing phenomenally. And I think that part of the reason why Elon is open to buying Twitter is not only to help change humanity in the future, but he's comfortable with the fact that Tesla is doing very well and he doesn't need to play as much of a vital role in the company. So a lot of people talk about, is this going to be a distraction for him? I think this is actually a bullish sign that it's not. He's already said when it comes to the Boring Company and Neuralink, he really doesn't even, he's not even there. He doesn't even really show up to board meetings or anything for that stuff. SpaceX, he barely shows up to those board meetings and just kind of gives his ideas on things. And then when it comes to Tesla, we've already heard that there is currently no talks about a next compensation package for him as CEO. So is this a sign that maybe he's going to be stepping away from that role? He's more right now of an inspirational figurehead that drives the team forward. He's not there for the day-to-day operations and managing of the company. So his ability to buy Twitter and focus on this, to me, is a very bullish sign for the company going forward because this means that it is now running on its own. We have 4 factories that are up and running. Back in 2018, Elon was in Fremont. That was the only factory that they had. He was sleeping on the floor. He was there for the day-to-day operations. He obviously can't be in 4 factories all at the same time running the day-to-day operations. That's impossible. He has teams in place now that are handling this. He constantly touts his teams of, when it comes to engineers, when it comes to his production teams and other development when it comes to building these factories. So he has these teams in place. He is not as much of a vital role as he was once before. And sure, there are always downside risks to everything. We do have supply chain issues that are still going on. Apple on their earnings call had mentioned how there are still supply chain situations going on over in China. Elon is still a factor. Maybe this purchase of Twitter falls through. Maybe it becomes a negative drag on the company. And then we do have the fact that we are potentially going into a recession. We still do have high inflation. Fed is still raising interest rates. Russia-Ukraine war is still going on, causing even more supply chain disruption. So most of the issues that are going on are macro-related, but they are significant. But for the company itself, fundamentally, there are minimal issues specifically for the company, that are not involved with macro environment issues. There's a lot of different negatives that are out there for downside risks. Personally, I am willing to take those risks. I see the company getting through this. I don't see these being long-term issues. So for me, as an investor that is planning on holding Tesla for 10 years at a minimum, these are near-term issues that will be resolved, and in the long term, these are going to be amazing buying prices that will in turn make our portfolios even more green in the future. And so going back to Elon's sales and the buying opportunities we had this week, I know many of you were on this channel and following along back in November and December when Elon was selling and the stock price just kept coming down, and we all kept on talking about, this is just short term, this is going to just be a one-time deal, this is going to be a great buying opportunity. When we look back at this, we are going to wish we bought more back then, and sure enough, we got through it and the stock price took off. Of course, after that, shortly thereafter, the macro environment just came crumbling down and brought the stock price with it. But we saw the resilience of the stock itself, and as soon as Elon was done, the stock price took off. So again, this was another one of those situations where this was a great buying opportunity. We've seen it before, we just saw it again, and if it happens again in the future and Elon has to sell shares for whatever reason, for whatever he's doing, it is going to be another great buying opportunity, in my opinion. And so from here, I think today we might actually see a green day now that we have the news that, Elon is done selling, and knowing that we have the potential proxy coming out on Monday, I think we'll see green today, and I think we're going to see green again on Monday. Now, if Monday rolls around and they kick the can down the road and extend their date that they're going to put out their proxy, then we will most likely see a red day on Monday, because that's kind of going to be a signal of something else is going on and why was there an extension, and now we're back to uncertainty times. And of course, whenever there's uncertainty, we see red in the market and in Tesla stock. Thank you all so much for watching. I appreciate all of your support and feedback. If you have not subscribed, please do so down below. Sign yourself up for notifications. I am over on Twitter at OracleTim1. I share all the latest Tesla news, pertinent stock market information, and all of my daily trades. Thank you so much. Have a great one.